Welcome to the place where we learn about and learn from the leaders in our field who are powering creativity. I'm Aaron Dworkin, and this is Arts Engines. Thanks again for joining me here on Arts Engines. Today's two guests are Bianca Davila do Prado, who is a cellist teacher and composer, as well as Dion Morales, who is a composer, teacher, and arranger. For both of you, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So I am so excited for a multitude of reasons. And of course, ASTA is our wonderful creative partner with this and helped us to be able to co-curate this show. And especially we'll be talking about the new Canon project, but also having two guests. So I'm so excited because both of you are involved in that project. But I thought what would be great first is if you could just share the work that you do, your work that you're doing, and kind of what is encompassed in teaching, composing, and or arranging, etc., for each of you, so our audience knows.
So I live in Chicago. I've been living in the United States. I'm Brazilian, and I moved here about 8 years ago to go to grad school and then started working. I currently teach. I coordinate an outreach program for the Hispanic community here in Chicago. And I started composing music because I felt that was a need for the music I could bring, and also combining my pedagogical background to write music that could be playable for young instrumentalists. So it's been a really rewarding experience.
And I'm a middle school orchestra director in Des Plaines, and I have been kind of noodling music. In high school, it was like, but didn't consider myself a composer because in my mind I didn't look like what a composer was. And it wasn't until my master's degree work when the late Lynn Latham was like, "Hey, you're good at this. Why don't you submit anything for publishing?" And I went, "Well, I'm not a composer." And she said, "What do you mean?" I was like, "Well, I'm just not." Right? And she told me literally in class, she said, "Don't be dumb." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And it just kind of took off from there, and I just kept working at it, and now we're here.
This is so awesome. And just even before we get to kind of the new Canon project, I was just wondering, Dion, but also Bianca, if you wanted to weigh in as well, kind of, that process. So you were talking about how, am I a composer or not? Is there any kind of message you'd share to young people, right, who might be in middle school or high school, right, and are thinking about that and are like, oh, well, maybe this is my voice or this is something I'm developing? Any kind of thoughts for them and or guidance for them when they're experiencing that but feel like, that's not me, I'm not that, right? Like, what would you say to them? What would you encourage our viewers to say to them?
I would say just start writing. And it doesn't matter what it looks like either. Like, I used to write literally just the letter names on pieces of paper without any rhythm reference. I just knew what I kind of wanted it to sound like. But when anybody ever tells me like, oh, I'm not a composer, I'm like, well, have you had musical thoughts before? They're like, yeah, just write that down. And they're like, that's it? I'm like, yeah, congratulations, you're a composer, you did it. Right? It's just that. It's not anything more than that.
Yeah, just go for it, because I think everyone has something important to share with the world and something that is unique to you, that you will be the only one who can do it. So just go and do it.
Absolutely awesome. So as I mentioned, ASTA, the American String Teachers Association, co-curator of this episode, but also have the new Canon project. And so wondering if you guys could just share with us kind of both what is that about, and also, most importantly, why? Why is a new Canon project important?
Okay. So the new Canon project is an initiative to find people who want to be composers or arrangers of color and give them an opportunity. And I say this with the most love in the world. I'm going to call it a professional level opportunity where somebody's going to play your music. You're going to have an opportunity to work with a mentor who's usually a composer or arranger or a high-level teacher. I got to work with Corey Benton and just give her my, like, is this good? And, got feedback from her, and just the opportunity to then do all those things, and we're doing professional level work to be paid for it. Now, that's a small piece, but it's an important piece, because so many people, will work for free for the opportunity, but this is an opportunity for people of color to be able to do professional level work, which includes being compensated for your time.
Yeah, as Dion said, it was a wonderful opportunity, especially having a cohort of composers too that are also kind of starting in their careers. I was literally starting. I had like 2 pieces composed before I got into the new Canon, and my whole education's in string pedagogy and cello. So I never had studied composition deeply. I just was sharing the music, especially from Brazil or from Latin America, and thinking that would be interesting for the students here. And it was so important to work with Nicolas Repeto, who was a wonderful mentor and still is, because now he's been publishing my pieces through his Dog Smile, and we wrote a book together, Dion, Nicolas, and I later, of Duetos Latinoamericanos, which is a wonderful, wonderful experience, and connecting with all these wonderful people. I teach Dion's daughter cello, so it's just a beautiful...
You created a family.
Yeah, we just like connected so well, all the people in the cohort, and we're still in touch, and then having the opportunity to go to the conference and premiere the pieces there, and fully funded, right, to go to the conference, all the expenses paid, and plus, as Dion said, the commission. And after that, I had so much more visibility, and people know I write music, and I keep being commissioned to write more music.
It's so awesome. And just also, I could just see the energy, the joy, the passion, exuding from both of you about this, and about this work. And to that kind of tune as well, any thoughts, right? Kind of, especially when we're thinking about young people and the music they're able to engage with, and the voices, the cultures that are represented. A lot of times people will say, oh, well, why do we need a new Canon project, right? Why do we need these new voices or anything? Just wondering if you could kind of speak to that and the importance and or what you see when young people especially, but all audiences, engage with this music you're creating.
Yeah, I mean, it's... So, especially, like, we're both music educators, right? It's one of those things where, yes, have I played Bach and Beethoven? Sure, yeah, of course. But it's one of those things where if you look throughout history, let's not shy away from the fact that people of color have not had the opportunities in the arts that people who are not of color just haven't had. So the effort for the new Canon project is a purposeful effort to take people who didn't have an opportunity and push it forward, because I truly believe that when I'm like creating a concert program, like I'm not just gonna like, oh, I know these pieces are good. I'm purposely saying, all right, I need to make sure that I put a piece by a person of color. I need to make sure that I have a woman on my program, and just making sure that some people look at that like, well, aren't you like typecasting your programs? Like, no. I am purposefully giving exposure to my students and my audience to music that if likely I wasn't to actively think about it, I probably wouldn't have done. And not because I'm prejudiced or biased, it's because it's a historical bias, right? It's just there's more of it that exists.
Yeah, my whole life until I moved to the United States, I never thought about writing music, because, I mean, besides like Chiquinha Gonzaga, and really I didn't grow up playing music from female composers from Brazil. And I think it's so important when we go to schools, because I've been doing that and I love doing that, and you go and people are like, did you write this music for playing? And the kids come and they want us to autograph their music. And so maybe how many females in that orchestra can now think that they could do it too, because they're seeing that a real person that is there is wrote the music they're playing.
Yeah.
It's absolutely wonderful. And I encourage everyone in our audience to reach out, to be in touch, to learn more, both from ASTA and from both of you, the amazing work that you are doing. We are unfortunately almost out of time, but I like to always ask of all of my guests, right? When you do this work, as I mentioned, the joy just emanates from both of you, and it's so fulfilling when I think about this joy of art and music making. But there also has probably got to be tough days, and I would think also composing, where it's just something, an idea or a phrase isn't coming through, that kind of thing. But just wondering for each of you, when you hit those tough days or challenging times, is there any mechanism or thing you do that helps you get through or past those difficult times?
I think play my cello. It's the greatest joy, and that's the why we do what we do, right? And it's really easy when you're teaching a lot to get a little far from your instrument. So it always brings me joy and inspiration when I go back and play my cello.
I think for me, I'm gonna go more philosophical just a little bit. I'm gonna say the word trust, because I know me as a person. I am chaos incarnate. But I am well-intentioned chaos incarnate. So it's trust, trust in the fact that, yeah, I have skills, but when I have a deadline coming up and, like I haven't heard from Dion for 2 weeks, I was like, listen, I'm going to get it there on time. Yes, you haven't heard from me for 2 weeks, but that's because I'm buried under 500 other things, but I'm going to get to you. I promise. And we're going to get it done. It's going to be awesome. And building a network of trust. The fact that I met Bianca is amazing because I've entrusted her to teach my daughter cello, which as a fellow musician educator, like it's a big deal to be like, hey, do you want to teach my kid? It's just trust in all the things.
Dion Morales and Bianca Davila do Prado, both of you truly are arts engines who are powering human creativity in our world. Thank you so much for everything you're creating, the art that you are creating that all of us get to enjoy and experience. And thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.